Governor, what exactly is the constitutional duty of the governor regarding the pendency of bills? And you know the controversy between the state and the Rajbhavan. Uh, can you clarify this to the people?
Constitution makes it abundantly clear that when a bill is passed by the state assembly, it comes to the governor, and governor has options as prescribed in the constitution. And the options are, he gives assent to the bill. In that case, the bill immediately becomes law. He reserves the bill for the consideration of the president. But there is an exception, money bill. When the bill is money bill, governor has no option but to give assent to it. These are the basic provisions. But there is a proviso added to the constitution, where it says that in case governor feels that the bill needs reconsideration because of certain element in it, which in his understanding this is not appropriate, then he can return the bill with his observation. That is an optional. These are so, when bill comes, you give assent, it becomes law. Withhold the assent, that means that, as the Constitution Court said, it falls through. Or reserve it for the consideration of the president. And in case governor chooses to think that the bill otherwise is fine, but there are certain observations or certain element in it which needs correction, so he sends it with reservation. These are provisions. Now, governor is bound to act under this. There is no any scope for governor to deviate, because after all, governor is a creature of the constitution. Bill comes, and that is how I deal with it. You know, more than 80% of these bills, I have cleared it right from I came, within 3 months of my coming. In fact, of these bills, there are more than 60% who I cleared within a week. 13% of these bills I have reserved it for the president. And a major part of this referring to the president is on the recommendation of the state government. Because if the bill falls in a domain on which either parliament has already made the law, or it is a parliament which has the competency, not you, then it can only be with the concurrence of the president. So the state says that please refer it to the president for consideration. So I reserve the bill for the consideration. Of the bills which I reserved for consideration, of the 13% of the total bill, 40% I did on my own discretion. That this bills, it contravenes certain provisions. And what are those bills? If I explain you. There are 10 bills relating to universities, where the assembly passed the bill taking over the effective role of the governor chancellor by the government, essentially chief minister. And I also must give you a small background to it, how it happened. You know, I came in September 2021. 2022, when I came and being the chancellor of the universities, I began reviewing the status of education, standard of education in our universities. And I realized that our universities were functioning at a far, far below the optimal level, hugely suboptimal. Research quality was poor. And each university was functioning in a silo. They were not talking to each other. I said, how can it be? We must, Because after all, unless we interact, each university has some positive, some strength, some weakness, you learn from each other. So I started an annual conference in 2022 of all the heads of higher educational institutions, especially universities, state universities, central universities, and deemed universities. We have more than 45 of them in our state. So a 2 days conference I organized in Ooty. Think that if we do it in Chennai, all these people will keep running for their own personal affair. They will not be fully concentrated. I said, well, in Ooty, if we do that, 2 days, they will discuss among themselves. I also invited a number of experts, UGC chairman, a number of people from industries, so industry and academia interface. It was a very well conceived in consultation with the vice chancellors. We organized it. For reasons known to them, it was done on 25th and 26th of April 2022. The education minister, the higher education minister, he called the VCs, asked them not to attend. But it so happened that all the VCs attended. And government felt very upset about it. And the very next day, 26th, while the conference was going on, they passed all these bills, removing governor from this responsibility of chancellor, and made a release that governor's wing has been clipped. I am giving you because look at the background. It was a well-intentioned initiative. Universities must interact with each other, must share their experiences. Not only state universities, they must, because there are a lot of capability, a lot of good things in the deemed universities. They are doing very well. We know that in our state, we have two streams of education. In NIRF ranking, National Institutional Ranking Framework, Tamil Nadu comes among the top. We have large number of institutions, higher educational institutions in Tamil Nadu, which figure in top 20 in our country. But hardly anyone from the state universities, state-run institutions. They're all deemed universities. I'm not talking about IIT Madras, I'm talking about other deemed universities. So there is a lot of capacity, a lot of know-how. So we must interact among ourselves. So with that we started, and I'm continuing that. But for reasons known, the state government, the minister called the VCs not to attend, VCs came, and they felt so cheesed off and they passed the bill. Now, it's okay, if they have passed the bill, it is up to them. But it runs contrary to UGC regulations. UGC is constituted under an Act of Parliament. In the division of power between a state and the union, education falls in concurrent list, but a standard in higher education falls in union list. So universities being higher educational institutions, the appointment of vice chancellor is a part of maintaining the standard. There it makes it very clear that vice chancellor appointment should be done by a search committee in which a nominee of the UGC chairman must also be there. And there are certain regulations. And it also be politically insulated. Chief Minister, by sheer nature of the office, is a political creature. So this responsibility is given to the governor, who acts as a chancellor. So when they passed the bills, I found it was just a hasty decision, inconsistent with the constitutional provision, because you are getting into the domain which is of union. So I reserved these bills eventually for the President's consideration. And remaining bills came only towards the last of October. So it is under consideration. To say that Governor has been sitting over the bills It's just a mischievous, malicious campaign. Governor has been the last person, as I said, and that's how I released Rajbhavan released data that look, it is for you, for anyone to see. But as a governor, my responsibility is to abide by the constitution, and if I see a bill which is contrary to the constitutional provision, I have to. I tell you one bill which eventually, when I insisted, they withdrew the bill. When they came, they passed a bill taking over all the cooperative societies. In our state, we have several thousand cooperative societies. And cooperative society being an elected body, this is a democratic body, democratically elected. They passed a bill in which the registrar of cooperative society got the power that if in his discretion a particular cooperative society is not functioning properly, he can suspend the society and take over. The law so far has been that when registrar of cooperative society gets to know through a complaint or otherwise that a particular cooperative society is not functioning properly, he should ask explanation of this from the society and give opportunity. And when they get the reply, he gets the reply, and if he is not satisfied with the reply, then he suspends it and takes over. So there is element of natural justice. That an elected body, registrar is an official of the government. If I suspend the body, I must give you an opportunity to explain why I am suspending. But they made, in a hurry, they passed the bill, not denying them of this and giving the power to the registrar. I said, how can you do that? Principle of natural justice. Elected body being just dismissed at the whims of an official. A team came. In fact, Chief Minister came. At the time, other minister, Mr. Durai Murugan, Tangam Tanrashu, Chief Secretary, they all came. Why are you not clearing the bill? I told them, look, is it done? Why do you have to do this? How can you deny the natural justice? Even if I sign it, it will not stand in the court. In the meeting, one minister said, is it so? He asked the Chief Secretary. Chief Secretary said, yes, sir. How could it happen? They realized at the time, but they kept insisting that no, I should. I said, look, I cannot. So, in public, they go and tell all kinds of things, but the reality is I examine every bill on the merit within the constitutional framework and I act on it. There is anything beyond.
So, atrocities on Dalits are on the rise. How do you make them feel safe?
That is one area which really is very painful. And I have been raising the issues of atrocities on Dalit time to time at public platforms also. While I have raised it with the government, but not seeing any response, I have been. But what is the basis for me to say so? That also I must make it clear. First of all, we must accept that discrimination against Dalits, it has been there in other parts of the country also. But by and large, it is much less in the rest of the country. Just our adjoining state, Kerala, was equally affected. Today, you hardly get any news of such discrimination against Dalit from Kerala. Whereas, every now and then you read in the newspaper, Dalits walking with a footwear in a village, particular road is beaten up. All kinds of. In fact, I read in the newspaper that a particular school, they have put a 4-foot wall, this side is a Dalit student, other this. I said, I am visiting the school. When I planned to visit, I went there. They demolished it, but I'm sure they would have built it later. Every now and then. In fact, there are elected Dalit local bodies chairpersons who have complained to me, I belong to the ruling party, by the way, that sir, I am not being allowed to take over. When they came to me, at the time they woke up, I said, look, the matter is now going to be embarrassing. And so some of them were finally allowed. Now, even I tell you, some of the cases I feel so bad. When they send for remission, I'm really surprised how do they do that. Between two Dalit, one Dalit and non-Dalit, they were vendors, poor people. We can be from any community. They entered into some scuffle. So this non-Dalit guy said, how dare you challenge me? Now, I am spitting on my shoes, you lick. You have option, either you lick my shoes, spit on my shoe, or you leave the village. That person chose to leave the village rather than doing that. 7 years later, there was a village temple festival. That person came. He attended the festival. These people ganged up, chased him and cut him to pieces. Hardly 10 years remission. You look at the crime against Dalit. All India average, you find it's more in Tamil Nadu. Crime against Dalit women. Crime against Dalit women, especially heinous crime like rape, almost double the national average in our Tamil Nadu. And look at this response of the state. Means about justice. Conviction rate in cases of crime against Dalit women is just half the national average. Now, this kind of social discrimination, so kind of atrocities on Dalits. This Kalakuruchi, that liquor tragedy happened. More than 65 people were killed. Who were they? They were mostly Dalits. What happened? You get some foot soldiers here and there. Charge sheet a case. A year before that in Chengalpet, 24 people had died with illicit hookah. Just. When it comes to offenses against Dalit, system goes slow. When it comes to discrimination, it is the incidents are going up. How long will it be? Now, unfortunately, when I say that, look, how come Kerala was able to eradicate it? And our neighboring state, forget about the rest of the country. It was all over. Because there, Kerala and neighboring states, it was eradicated because they made it a social movement, not a political movement. Here it becomes politics. You talk about social discrimination and you commit the worst social discrimination. They didn't allow a social movement to reform it. Why I keep telling that, why can't you tell your cadres, you swear, you take an oath, you will not commit social discrimination against Dalits. Why don't they do that? They make song and dance about social discrimination and for Dalits emancipation. The fact is, on the ground, they commit the worst atrocities against the Dalits. Borne by the crime figures, borne by the conviction figures, borne by the newspaper reports, all over. Adi Dravida schools. Now they have mainstreamed it with the rest of the school board. I visited many Adi Dravida schools. Most pathetic. The teachers from somewhere else, non-Dalit of course, they will be there, they are least interested. In the name of giving a special treatment to Adi Dravida, who constitute the Dalit group, You created a department for their education, and in the process, you have deprived them of the basic education with total indifference. In fact, I raised the point, for whatever reason, whether I raised it or otherwise, I keep raising the point, why should it not be a part of the mainstream education? Because when you have a special department for it, it gets into bureaucracy and bureaucratic rigmarole. Nobody cares. Posting of your teachers. You keep the post vacant. You post a teacher from somewhere to some far off Adi Devda school. The teacher doesn't go. And those poor students and their parents, they don't have the capacity to raise the issue. So they are not serious about addressing the issues affecting the Dalits. That's the sad part of it.
Governor, I wish we go on and on. It's inspiring. But I need to ask you some personal questions before we wind up. I've heard you were involved in a lot of adventures when you were IPS officer in Kerala. Can you narrate one?
Look, we all do our duty. All do our duty.
It's a personal side.
No, but I must tell you that I feel I am not that stage in life where I start recollecting my memories. I believe I have a lot of things to move ahead. So I think recollecting those incidents and all, I think you can spare me, because if I start, there are not many things. You do that. I think I would better not like to. I would, because there are so many instances are there, and it's not very prudent to. And I told you that memories, I should start referring to or recollecting when I feel that I have nothing more to do.
So you must have visited the temples in Tamil Nadu. Which is the most best temple that attracted you?
Very difficult question, because each temple is unique. It's a marvel in sculpting, architecture. Each of them is just mind-boggling. It fills your heart with pride how evolved and accomplished our people were who built this. And I have visited fairly good number of them. But one temple, if you say that it stands out, is primarily for a simple reason that it has a historical context which is deeply rooted with our culture, is Srirangam, where we have this Kambar Mandapam. The great saint poet Kambar, who composed, that is the place when I visited that Mandapam, it transports you to a different era, that I could feel. I have done some other also, but there also I did some cleaning, because I believe that this has to be preserved by devotees, by us, not somebody else. But every temple has a lot of elements in it which just overwhelms you and fills your heart with pride.
So the Tamil delicacy that enters your plate very often, can you name it?
Look, there's a normal staple of the day is, there's idli, dosa is a staple. But if you ask me, there is one, but I always careful to take in control. I have to restrain myself, is a vatakulambam with rice, with sadam. That's a fantastic. That's my weakness.
Raviji, life is a race, and power and position helps you win only the small sprints. Whereas when you're an amazing personality, you go on and on, you can win long marathons. You are a marathon runner. So I want to ask you this question. From here, where do you go? You're going to next. We are going to have a new government. You're going to swear it in. After that, where do you intend to go, or can we expect you as the union minister?
Look, these are speculations which I would like to restrain myself. I am discharging a responsibility given to me by the Prime Minister. One thing which I know about myself is that my life is dedicated to one thing, to serve our country, Ma Bharati. Ma Bharati is my supreme divine, and I will continue doing in my capacity wherever I am, official or non-official. Today I am governor, tomorrow I may not be anybody, but even when I am not holding any office, even then, that is not going to take away me from my mission to continue serving. And I know that to serve Ma Bharati, one life is not enough. And I believe in rebirth. So I can't say that even when I take my last breath, that will be my completion of the mission. No, I will continue doing that, whether I am here or anywhere else.
Raviji, you had voiced your concern that the poor quality of education in Tamil Nadu has made the school children unable to achieve globally, and that teaching and learning in the government schools is in a pitiable condition. Is your concern based on your assessment, or you go by the reports?
Education, we all know, is the most powerful instrument of social justice, most powerful instrument of economic justice. A good education liberates you from the constraints that you have faced or your elders have faced in the family or in the society. And it uplifts you to a different economic orbit. So education is the most important instrument of empowerment. Now, our strength, our state, Tamil Nadu strength, Tamil Nadu is, people are so progressive, so enterprising, that we are among the top states of this country. Be in economic parameters, education, health, in all these. It's all we have built it over the decades. But at the foundation is the education. I remember in my childhood, when I in my student age, we used to envy Madras University. Madras University is very great. So that was our position. Now, what is happening in recent years in our schools, which is fundamental? And by the way, our government schools cater for 60% of our school-going children in our state. 60%. 40% they go to privately run schools. And 60% those who go to government schools, they are largely people who come from poor and marginalized background. Because private schools, obvious reason, they're expensive. They cannot afford this. Pay the fees. So, government schools are catering to the large number of people, students, 60%. They are catering to the socially and economically marginalized people. And the only means of their upliftment is education. Now, look at what is the status of our school education, government school education. One is my empirical observation. I have visited many government schools and I have interacted with the students with the teachers as well, which left me completely disturbed at the apathy of the teacher and the lack of, aspiration among the children. But look at the data. There is a body called Pratham, is an NGO. They do annual assessment of school education all over the country. And generally they are recognized for their scientific method and their impartiality. They produced annual report ASAR, Annual Status of Education Report, ASAR, where they tell among the school children the level of fundamental numeracy, literacy, whether the student is able to read the text commensurate with the standard, that is literacy, and numeracy about whether they are able to do the basic sums, mathematics, addition, subtraction, division. They have these certain parameters on which they judge it. Of late, year on year, ASAR reports says that a standard of education in our state-run schools are declining steeply. More than 50% of our students in high school cannot read a second grade textbook. More than 50% of our students in high school cannot do simple two-digit addition or subtraction. And shockingly, more than 50% cannot recognize all the two-digit number, 11 to 99, they cannot recognize. This is alarming. And there the report shows, year on year, that our standard is much lower than the standards in UP, Bihar. This should come as a shock to us, that we had taken a long lead over those states. But today, bulk of our students, they are getting education, the quality of which is lower than that of those schools in those states. Now this is something which is worrisome, and I have been raising this point time to time. There is another aspect to this, because education being the most potent instrument of empowerment, economic and social justice, if our socially and economically marginalized children, they get poor quality education, what is their future? Because increasingly we are in knowledge-driven world, knowledge-driven economy. Gone are the days when you could be just a physical laborer. Today, economy is driven based on your knowledge and skill. It is a digital age. If in an age like this, when you have industries moving on those lines, employment opportunities, our poor and marginalized students, they will pass with degrees, they will get certificate, but thereafter what? Now, this will perpetuate the social and economic injustice to our poor and marginalized, because the differential is going to be much wider today and tomorrow. Now, it will have, if we are imparting poor quality education today to our school children, it will have implications for generations to come. And it is also widening the differential between those who can afford and those who cannot. Because at the same time, in the private institutions, they are doing better. So the poor children will continue getting poor quality education with a bleak prospect in future for their future life. Not so poor people would keep their children would get better education, having better prospect in life. So the poor quality education in our schools is creating a discriminatory environment in perpetuity. This is not acceptable. We must address it.
So the latest controversy involving you is about the Sanatana Dharma you are speaking about. In a state where people are out to weed out the Sanatana Dharma, uh, how do you expect this to fan out? I mean, the Sanatana Dharma, because they are bound to finish it off. Uh, how do we take it to the roots?
You know, people in our state are, I am firmly convinced, they are deeply Sanatanis, because we must have clarity, because a lot of disinformation have been spread about Sanatana Dharma. And this I have been talking right from the beginning, it is not today. Because that is the foundation of our country, that is the foundation of our society, that is the foundational value of our civilization. What is Sanatana Dharma? You know, since the time of Vedas, a knowledge was revealed that individual, collective, that is society, and the creation, with the larger human family, plants and animal family, all, individual, collective, and creation, we are all integrally connected. And each one is a manifestation of the Supreme Divine. We are all one family. None should be seen in separation. The differences that we see are apparent differences. It is a diverse manifestation of the same divine. This is the core of Sanatana. So there is no concept of other in Sanatana. And when I say other, it is not just human beings, but even plants and animals. When I hear a Sanmargi, Shuddha Sanmargi, talking about Vadiye Pairei Kand Podelam Vadinen, this is the Bij, Mool Mantra of Sanatana. Plant is also the same. When I listen to great Saint Tiruvalluvar, when he says, Arvinal aguvadu undo, pirat noe tan noe pole putrarkade. Pirat noe tan noe pole putrarkade. This is Sanatana. Sanatana is the core of creation of Bharat, is the fundamental force and fundamental values. And our rishis made it very clear that while this is the truth, that we are all part of one family, none is separate, and we must have a lifestyle, we live in harmony with each other. This experience can be expressed in manifold ways. That is what they said in Veda. Ekam sada vipra baudha vadanti. Truth is one. It can be expressed in many, many ways. So, we developed a culture, a civilizational culture based on Sanatana principle of Sarva Mat Sambhav, equal respect to all faith. No superior, no inferior. We are all equal. Be equally respectful to all. This is Sanatana. And here in Tamil Nadu, I go to a village I see people congregating at the Amman temple. Do I say that no, they are performing an unscientific act? Faith, which has originated, which has created our whole Bharat as a Rashtra. People here in their hatred against others just for political reason, they have tried to create a myth that Tamil culture was completely distinct from the rest of Bharat. And then they, in their excitement, they will go to Sangam era. I had occasion to read Sangam literature. Let me quote Tolkapiyam. First is Silpadikaram. Silpadikaram, Purnanuru, Aknanuru, they are all full of incidents quoted from Ramayana. Silpadikaram, when it says that the principal character of Silpadikaram, Kolan and Kanaki, when they leave Pumpuhar, the whole Pumpuhar is sad, depressed. And then its poet says, it is like when Sri Ram and Sita left Ayodhya. When Kanaki gave the curse and the city burnt, after that, when the king built a temple of Kanaki, Silpadikaram says that the king went to Himalaya, picked up the rocks, dipped into the Ganges, purified it, sanctified it, brought it. With those rocks, temple is built. Look at the connect. Purnanuru. There is a passage, beautiful passage, it says, the poet was, for composing this Purnanuru, was honored by the king. And the king offered jewelry. Those days, that's what they used to do. But it so happened that poet's relatives were greedy. They took away the jewelries. And they were wearing it. Purnanuru describes, the poet describes, that these jewelries on these women are similar to when Sita was being taken by Ravana and she dropped her jewels, monkeys picked up and they were wearing it. Look at the reference of Ramayana. Aknanuru says, when Sri Ram, on the beach of Rameswaram, he used to recite daily until the bridge was made and he went, recite Veda. And there Aknanuru says that whenever Sri Ram began reciting Veda mantra, the birds sitting on the trees, they stopped chirping to listen to him. This is Aknanura. Look at Ramayana. Tolkapiyam, the grammar of Tamil book. Tolkapiya, after composing the whole book, he first went and presented to the Pandyan Acharya main Acharya in Pandyan Darbar. Pandyan king. And who was the Acharya? Atankot Acharya. And in the preface introduction, Tolkapiya says, describes Atankot. Who was Atankot Acharya? Aram Karai Navin, Nan Marai Mutri Atankot Acharya. One who was well versed in all the four Vedas. This is our Sangam literature. These are all the roots of Sanatana. Simply because you make a noise for political purpose and you say that you will weed out like dengue and malaria, this is not going to happen. People of Tamil Nadu, they are deeply Sanatana. They had just created a smoke screen. But this smoke screen is not going to last. They may say whatever they do, but the fact is, the truth is emerging and it will emerge because it is indestructible. So, Sanatana Dharma is all embracing. Even those who say that it has to be eradicated, I as a Sanatani cannot say that they are not ours, because that is against the very tenet of Sanatana. So it is a universal faith, universal doctrine, and it shall prevail, I have no doubt about it. And people of Tamil Nadu are asserting it increasingly more and more.
Raviji, when you were appointed governor, it was said that there was some development in Tamil Nadu and you were appointed to tackle that important development. But as soon as you landed here, you started connecting to the people. What was the purpose? You connected to the language, the civil societies. How fast you connected and why?
When I came to Tamil Nadu, it was not, for me, it was not the question of connecting with Tamil Nadu. It was essentially rejuvenation of my connect. Because in many ways I was connected. And I will recall a few instances how I. In my village, I come from a village. When I was studying in school Pathsala, primary school, at the time in that area, several villages, there was one gentleman, elderly person, a mendicant, whom we all used to call him Dakshini Baba. Dakshini because he was from Madras. Dakshini is south. We used to call him Dakshini. And about once in a month he would come to my house and he would be hosted by my house, because as a mendicant he would go and whichever house he goes, house host him. So he used to frequently come and used to come tell stories. He was a very reputed astrologer. And that astrologer, Dakshini Baba, he used to tell stories. So first you can say that, my connect happened with Madras. You should say he was from Madras. And his stories. When I went to high school, I always looked for inspirational stories and motivational quotes. I was a school student. I was very much inspired by this. So in my school library, I used to pick out books with all these quotes. One of the quotes which deeply influenced me, which gave me the strength, was, today if I tell you, you will find surprisingly, it was a Tirukural. If you decide to do something, if you have the will, you will have it. It is your will, your strength. Nothing is impossible. You can do it. It was written in Devanagari Hindi. These were the words and explained how a poet saint, Tamil poet saint, says that you have that in you. It is your will. Now that was a great thing that was in my mind. My desire to see the land of Tiruvalluvar. In my civic book, History, I had read that during the time of Chandragupta Maurya, about 400 BC, a great Acharya, Bhadrabahu, from Pataliputra, with 12,000 monks, he travelled and came to Arihantagiri, present-day Tamil Nadu. I used to wonder, those days, 12,000 people leaving Pataliputra, travelling all the way. Look at the logistics involved. They have to be fed, they have to take rest. So there was a system of support that they had all along. Long journey, thousands of kilometers, came. This visit to Arihantagiri was my very close desire. I wanted to see where Acharya Bhadrabahu came. Incidentally, when I came and I made inquiry about Arihantagiri, people were not able to help me. It is located in Tiruvannamalai district. Tirumalai is the village where this is there. When my office got in touch with the district collector, said Arihantagiri, we are not able to recollect and all that. But finally they could declare this is where Arihantagiri is. And I visited. You go there, you find about 2,000-year-old caves and caves fresco. So this Arihantagiri, this desire to see was kindled in me at the time of school, as a high school student. When I joined the service and started serving, mostly in the frontier areas, Kashmir, while serving in Kashmir, I got to know, of course I saw the Sankaracharya hills, Adi Sankaracharya had built a temple going from here. But I also learned there, which I verified here and I found it was true, that Adi Sankaracharya, before he took Samadhi at Kanchi Peeth, he brought his successor, Sureswaracharya from Kashmir, who came here all the way. Kashmir, I got to know about Sureswaracharya and Tamil Nadu connect. Going to the present day Uttarakhand, then there was, at the time I was serving, there was no Uttarakhand, who came later. Whenever I visited the border areas along Badrinath, Kedarnath, I was reminded of, because Badrinath, the main priest is from the south. See? When I went to Assam, northeast, the defining identity of Assam are the teachings of Srimant Sankar Dev, a Vaishnavite saint. 600 years ago, he had come from Kamarup, Assam, to Tamil Nadu, studied at Rameswaram, studied at Kanchi Peeth, went to Kasi, he studied there. Then he went back. It was almost about 14 years of journey. On reaching Kamrup, which is present-day Guwahati we call, the first poem he composed was Dhanya Dhanya Bharat Bhumi. Now, he created a set of Vaishnava satras, institutions, monasteries, they called satras. He was deeply inspired by the bhakti culture of Tamil Nadu. That shaped Assam's identity. I served for a longer period, and whenever I visited Satra, whenever I say, look, this saint who shaped the whole culture of Assam, Srimant Sankar Dev, how he was connected to. So when I came to Tamil Nadu, I came with a lot of connect already. For me, it was rejuvenating those, connecting those, finding out those, visiting those places. And people were, and have been, why were? People have been so nice, loving and affectionate that wherever I went, whomever I met, I felt I am not in any place which is distinct from mine. I never felt a stranger, never felt an outsider. I felt genuinely as one among them. So there is no question of any connect as such, building a connect, it was there. And then I wonder, the beauty of our country. Imagine, we seem to be forgetting these. When I think of Arihantagiri, when I think of Tiruvalluvar reaching there in my high school, I learned to read it in Tamil, the Kural, only after coming here. But in Hindi, it was written there. And it was highly motivating. Visit all the places, be it them. So it has been a deep connect since my childhood. It is only, you can call it a maturing of that connect more perhaps. That is how, and for which I feel blessed. And I would thank the Prime Minister for giving me opportunity, and I think it is providential.
So, time changes leaders and governments. They can be changed only because they have only opinions, not convictions. You seem to have a strong conviction, and all time can do to you is just bow before you and walk out. This conversation was great and inspiring, and you have enlightened us in several matters. I thank you for this wonderful opportunity on behalf of the Tamil Janam TV and its viewers. Vanakkam.
Thank you very much, Narasimhanji. Thank you, you and your Janam TV team for the opportunity. Thank you.